We begin in Nigeria, where the federal government has announced plans to subsidize electricity in universities and public health institutions under Band A feeders. This was disclosed by the Minister of Power, Adebola, during a recent radio interview in Ibadan. The government's decision comes after universities and public hospitals complained of skyrocketing electricity bills following the removal of subsidies for Band A customers. The institutions had seen their bills increase significantly, with the University of Lagos and Lagos University Teaching Hospital receiving a joint bill of 280 million naira for May, up from less than 100 million naira previously. The government subsidy will not apply to private business operating within these institutions. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has urged the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and Speaker of the House of Representatives Tajuddin Abbas to disclose the exact amount of monthly running costs allotted to members of the National Assembly. SERAP requested the spending details of any of such running costs as well. This information was made known in a statement dated August 17, 2024, signed by Deputy Director of SERAP, Kolawole Oluwadare. The group's demand is coming on the heels of the recent controversy surrounding the salary of senators. A former senator representing Kaduna Central, Senator Shehu Sani, had stated that senators receive over 13 million naira monthly, but the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission faulted his claim. A former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, has attributed the country's stagnation to what he described as self-centered leadership lacking relevant knowledge. Speaking as a special guest of honor at the Leadership Empowerment International Conference, Obasanjo made these remarks in the capital of Ogun State, Abeokuta. According to him, leadership is a lasting virtue that endures until the end of one's life. He said the country is presently plagued at all levels by a band of self-centered leaders who are deficit of knowledge, bereft of understanding, and demonstrating a leadership style that does not see service as the centerpiece for development. Let's also tell you that a Nigerian economist, Pat Utomi, has alleged that the former governor of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun, violated a contract he entered with his government. Utomi made the statement in response to Amosun's admission that he had cancelled an agreement with Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Company Limited, a Chinese company. He said that the company had fake documents and called them imposters. A court in France later ruled in favor of the company and ordered the seizure of 3 Nigerian presidential jets. In a tweet on his X handle on Sunday, Utomi claimed that, like the Chinese company, he also faced a similar fate. According to Utomi, it was Governor Amosun's violation of contract terms signed by his predecessor that brought the shame of the seizure of jets from the presidential fleet. Meanwhile, 2 former governors of Ogun State, Ibikunle Amosun and Benga Daniel, have pledged to support the federal government's efforts to recover national assets seized by a French court. A Chinese firm, Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Company Limited, had obtained a judgment leading to a seizure of 3 presidential jets, including a Dassault Falcon 7X, a Boeing 737, and an Airbus 330. The company claimed damages over a failed joint venture agreement with the Ogun State government. However, the former governors described Zhongshan as a scammer, stating there was no basis for the company's claims. They insisted that Nigeria should not negotiate with the company as it would encourage unlawful appropriation of national assets. The federal government has been urged to take immediate action to recover the seized assets and protect Nigeria's interests. Away from that, the Kaduna Concerned Groups Forum is calling on federal government to take urgent action against foreign interference in Nigeria's domestic affairs. The group condemns the display of foreign flags by some protesters during recent nationwide protests, citing it as a violation of national unity and patriotism. KCGF demands an investigation and prosecution of those responsible, enforcement of legal consequences, and efforts to promote unity and patriotism among citizens. The group believes that displaying foreign flags undermines national sovereignty and dignity, and that holding those accountable is essential for preserving democratic institutions and processes. KCGF supports peaceful dialogue that fosters national unity and progress. Earlier, we were joined by Deputy State Coordinator KCGF, Abubakar Abdul Rashid.
Unfortunate that the giant of Africa, Nigeria, we found ourselves in a political quagmire that even gives opportunity for some external forces to come and intrude into our country's affairs. They took advantage of the misinformed and the disinformed persons amongst us to unsettle our stability in the country. Quite all right, we know we have some domestic issues that is affecting us. And protest, the call for protest, peaceful protest, is reasonable for people. But we won't sit down and look at our country born inside flames. You understand? Some people are trying to take this advantage of uninformed people amongst us to set the country ablaze. So we won't sit and look at people do.
In the same vein, the Patriotism Awareness Forum, PAF, has called for an extensive investigation into the recent End Bad Governance protest, which they described as a failed and misguided attempt to undermine the democratic process. The civil society group is demanding a thorough probe and prosecution of those they claim are responsible for orchestrating what they term an insurrection under the guise of a hunger protest. In a press release issued in Lagos, PAF expressed its concern over the violence and destruction that accompanied the protest, including looting, arson, and widespread damage to both public and private property. The group accused the protest's organizers of trying to destabilize the government and seize power through unlawful means. Residents of Ogbodudu in Umuanandume, Umuahia North local government area of Abia State say they're now insecure following the demolition of the offences by government authorities on Saturday. They say they were yet to understand why the Umuahia Capital Development Authority carried out the assignment that has caused devastation in the various buildings in the area. According to those who spoke to News Central, some of them have already fled their homes for fear of possible attacks from the locals and also removed some vital things as well. The community is said to have recently won its case with the Old Boys Association of Government College Umuahia over ownership of the area. The general manager of Umuahia Capital Development Authority, Kingsley Agomo, was not available to offer explanations for the development as of the time of filing this report.
It's not up to 3 months we started living here. We just paid we spent almost 1.5 million naira. When they came yesterday, they were saying that they had the authority from the governor of Abia State, Dr. LSOT. And he has asked them to demolish everything that people occupying here are staying in government property.
All this morning, come large there. Maybe I saw Neleno. I am a bag of Baragana. And we give me a boss on Mamga. Like yesterday night, oh, na hotel come on me here. A lot ramo. Was it yesterday? Man who vacate. So keep one day vacate without giving us notice. In our hotel because all night who they have before I got a whole wall here.
Now let's talk about health, where Nigeria has intensified monitoring and screening procedures at all entry points into the country in response to the monkeypox outbreak. The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Muhammad Pate, disclosed this in a statement signed by his Special Advisor on Media and External Relations, Tashkimla Hala. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention last week reported 39 confirmed cases of Mpox, but no death across 33 states and the Federal Capital Territory from the beginning of 2024. The minister explained that the government had implemented a new mandate requiring all travelers to complete an online health declaration form before departing for the country. Earlier, a medical practitioner, Dr. Taufik Sani, joined us on the news to discuss this.
Mpox disease is endemic in Central Africa and some part of West Africa, especially in Democratic Republic of Congo. It is endemic. However, because of globalization, increase in movement across borders, and also increase in trade and traveling, we've had import of these diseases from the areas where they are endemic to new areas. And also because of reduction in our surveillance system, where at our borders, we don't actually screen for Mpox. This has also increased the importation of this disease from areas where they are endemic to new areas where they are new.
The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency says its operatives have arrested a Vietnam-bound businessman, Paul Okwi Mbaduga, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, after he tested positive for ingestion of cocaine. Now, this was contained in a statement signed by the agency's spokesperson, Femi Babafemi, on Sunday. He said that the 54-year-old suspect was intercepted at the boarding gate of the Abuja airport on Monday, August 12, 2024, during the outward clearance of a Qatar Airways flight to Hanoi, Vietnam, via Doha. According to Babafemi, Mbaduga excreted a total of 88 wraps of the illicit drug with a gross weight of 1,710 kilograms or 1.710 kilograms, I beg your pardon, after 4 days under excretion observation. In a statement, the suspect was said to have claimed that he's a Lagos-based businessman and was given the cocaine pellets to swallow by a friend in Isolo area of the state for onward delivery in Vietnam for a fee of $2,000. Gunmen have abducted 3 persons in Enugu State College of Health Technology in Oji River local government area of the state. Now, the Enugu State Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Daniel Ndukwe, confirmed this in a statement. Ndukwe said the Oji River Division of the command responded swiftly to the site following reports of an alleged kidnapping near the college, saving 2 of the victims. The remaining 3 are still unaccounted for. However, he stated that intensive efforts are being made to find and free them as well as capture their kidnappers. According to the DSP, the preliminary investigation proves that the victims were driving out of the college when the incident occurred. Welcome back. Residents of the Bandara community in the Kurudu area of the Federal Capital Territory have called on relevant authorities to come to their aid over what they described as an attempt by an estate developer to forcefully evict them from their community. The residents, who took to the streets after a recent demolition of some houses in the community, say that despite a court order restraining the action of the developer, the properties of many families were still pulled down and many left homeless. Our correspondent Idong Joseph reports.
Feeling distressed over the recent demolition of several houses on August the 15th, the residents of the Bandara community converged on the divisional headquarters of the Nigerian police in the Kurudu area of the Federal Capital Territory. Many of us are homeless. Carrying placards, tree branches, and singing songs of solidarity, they then walked into the street where they alleged that an estate developer, under the supervision of the Nigerian police, the Nigerian Civil Defense Corps, and personnel from the Correctional Service jointly conducted the demolition.
All these developers, they hide under the banner of police. They are using police and will not quiet all this business a one-man business. They are terrorizing us every day within 6-month interval, within a year interval.
This land belongs to Bandara community. The place that they give police is Orozo Kerishi Road, and they will have consent judgment. that show us a bandit.
12,000 families are involved in this place, and we are telling the government, the Nigerian citizens of Nigeria, to hear us. The location of this community is in Kurudu, behind Lavok, behind the police estate. They have always used police name to claim this place.
They cried out about the incessant intimidation by the estate developer since 2010, with no warrant of demolition, despite a court order mandating them to suspend their actions. They called on relevant authorities to intervene.
There is hunger in the land, and you are coming to add this to us? Is it proper? Is it proper? Mr. President Jagaban, the Tinubu, the president of this nation, we are calling your attention to this matter.
They will be asking us to be bringing money. Where are we going to get 5 million? I don't have 1 million accounts. The one that we have, they say to bring it by force, by force. I don't have the one that I'm going to bring. I bet we can come and assist us.
Nigerians, we are calling Kinjibe Ireti, our FCT senator. We are calling the chairman of AMAC. We are calling the former senator FCT, our father, Philip Aduda. We need all of you. We don't want to take laws into our hands.
They also promised to resist any further attempts to evict them if no action is taken.
We want DK to be cautioned. We want Dudon to be cautioned. We want Andy to be cautioned. We don't want to take laws into our hands.
We are not going to take it any longer. The next time they come here and bring any roof down, we are going to go to the barrack for reproach. We are going to go to the estate for reproach. We are not pretending about that. So let this serve as a warning to whoever thinks he has money and have a right in his pocket.
According to the residents, this is the third time in about 14 years that they have faced demolition of their property with the intent to evict them from their community. They said the first was in 2011 and then 2016, and now the recent demolition which took place on August the 15th. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonko Joseph.
Nigeria's federal government has been tasked to do more in ending irregular migration and human trafficking in the country. Now, this was during a training for doctors in the faith community comprising Christian and Muslim leaders in Abuja on how to offer psychosocial support to victims and help them integrate back into the society. Amadin Uyi reports.
It was a gathering of religious faithful from both Nigeria's Christian and Muslim communities. The aim of the session was to educate religious leaders on how to give psychosocial care to migrants of irregular migration that have returned back to their country.
This entire training is a collaboration of the Lutheran Church of Christ in Nigeria and All Africa Conference of Churches, and it is basically focused on educating religious leaders or religious stakeholders from both the Muslims and the Christian perspective on psychosocial caregiving to return migrants and survivors of human trafficking.
The core objective is to have us as religious leaders, as faith actors, to be trained in how to provide psychosocial support to return migrants and also to survivors, and again to be knowledgeable about the issue of migration, specifically irregular migration.
You find people being taken from one state to the other in large numbers, hundreds and thousands, in the name of Almajiri. That is trafficking. You find people being taken from one state to another for labor. That's trafficking. So these things have been with us, but I'm happy that this training will give further information on the need for us to pay attention to those things that happen around us.
While many believe that their experience is best told by the victims, one of them who spoke to News Central described her experience.
Through what I passed through, I wasn't thinking I would stand on my feet here today and stand this strong and also be alive today, but I still thank God because the trauma wasn't easy, seriously. I faced a lot. I seriously faced a lot because the experience is really hurting. Those
in attendance urged citizens and government to do more in ending irregular migration, which dehumanizes victims, is exploited by traffickers, and can be stemmed by better living conditions.
My call to action for stakeholders that are here today is to go back and be catalysts that will take back the message, to educate people, their adherents, their neighbors, people around them, and to be peer pressure to the society or to the government as well, so that we will live up to expectation in restoring the dignity of humanity and preserving and protecting humanity from being devastated by these heinous people who prey on human existence.
The psychosocial support is there in the first place because there is irregular migration. Now the questions will be, why are people migrating irregularly? Why are they leaving their comfort zone? That's what the African government should look at, then see how to make people comfortable.
They also called on government agencies responsible for tackling trafficking to work together in a bid to achieve more results. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
Thank you, Amadin. Now, economic prosperity has been described as one of the major targets of every society and state for development to thrive. These were the words of the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, while addressing the challenges faced by petty traders maintaining illegally constructed stores within the Jos Bukuru metropolis. News Central's Chizoba Nyongwe tells us more.
They always pack our things and went away with it. And when we got there, they will charge us to court. They will say, look, if I one of my woman fellow that is selling it, they lock that woman up, they bed that woman with 10,000 naira. Those common cheating and mineral, they collected 30,000 naira. For what?
That set the tone for this report. In September 2023, the government of Plateau State, under Executive Order 003, came on board. The objective, among others, is to scrap illegally constructed stores, impound vehicles parked in wrong places, and beautify the city center. Enforcement on this order began a few months ago, with offenders asked to pay various amounts of fine to retrieve their seized items. Traders and motorists have never been comfortable with this. However, Governor Mutfwang has recently reversed the order for traders, noting the economic hardship they experience.
We have instructed that all the demolitions be halted and that we are looking for spaces to develop community markets. But you agree with us that there is no society that thrives with lawlessness. That we must therefore balance between law and order, and also ensuring that there is an economic prosperity for our people.
News Central felt the pulse of these traders based on the governor's order, but the reverse was the case.
I personally, collected chichi, 80,000 naira. These people seal it. And when I went there, they said they took it to orphanage home. For what? For what when I have my children, I have my grandchildren? Is it a cause? Is it a crime for us to look for daily bread?
Yesterday for Jude site, they pack about 3 cars. They pack people slow, they pack 3 cars. Today, madam pack 2 cars for this down this entire site. Even we said they didn't allow us to put anything. We don't have anything to eat now to give our children. We don't have anything. See our children for house are just suffering, crying, no food to give them.
I just feel like crying. We are suffering. Things are very bad. We are going through a lot. This is not what we bargained for. We were happy, we were dancing that the right governor we wanted has come. But everything just turned up to become so painful.
How the governor's order will see the light of the day remains their worry.
I left my house, nothing to give my children. They are crying, I just go away. I go borrow the load from market now to come and sell it. Then run to come and pick it. Now so I'm running with it since in the morning reach this time. I don't know how to do. Please, the governor should pity us and help us. If not, we don't know what we will do.
How are we going to cope? We have children to feed, we have school fees to pay. We are just struggling. Things are not easy with us. We are not happy. We are telling the governor we are not happy. He should do something about it.
He's always trying. Even ourselves, we are praising the governor that let him try more to help us to also be established in our life.
He should consider we that are operating low level. We have no money for shop, that is number one. Secondly, if there is a place he can just give us freely on his own, he should send the authority to come and do that for us.
As these traders continue to wallow in their plight, they have also continued to ask the government of the day to listen to their cries, even as they look for better ways of getting their means of livelihood. From the Terminus Main Market in Jos, Chizoba Anyonwe, reporting for News Central.
Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has commissioned the Mushin flyover, the last of the 5 overpasses built along the Red Line rail corridor. The infrastructure is expected to relieve motorists and commuters connecting Agege Motor Road from Onikpanu of traffic and to solve congestion and delays associated with the railway level crossing at Ogumokun axis. Sanwo-Olu said the opening of the Mushin flyover was another fulfillment of his administration's promise to the residents, noting that the infrastructure had changed the face of public transportation in the state.
We say things, it might not be as quick as you want it, but we'll bring it to conclusion. And so we're here. We're here to fulfill what this government had said. We had promised Lagosians that we're going to change the face of rail public transportation in Lagos. But in doing that, we'll also be solving a lot of traffic, transportation, vehicular movement solutions for our citizens. This overpass is strategically important to ensure that that is the Mushin station right behind you, which Mr. President commissioned concurrently earlier in the year. And you know that we promised 5 overpasses. This is the 5th one that this administration has promised, and we have delivered. We have delivered.
Coming up after the break. All right, before the break, now the Parliament of the Economic Community of West African States is making more diplomatic efforts to keep Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger inside the regional alliance. Now, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, confirmed the parliamentary diplomacy mechanisms are being deployed to engage the 3 nations, emphasizing the importance of unity within ECOWAS. He said this in an interview with newsmen in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, on the sidelines of a meeting of the Parliament's Joint Committee on Administration, Finance, Budget, Public Accounts, Macroeconomic Policy and Economic Research, of which he is chairman. Kalu assured that letters had been sent to the governments of the concerned nations and visits by parliamentary representatives would soon follow. The news continues in North Africa, where the Central Bank of Libya said on Sunday it was suspending all operations after a bank official was abducted in the capital Tripoli in a statement posted on social media. Musab Musalem, head of information technology at the central bank, was kidnapped by an unidentified group from his house Sunday morning. The bank said it will not resume operations until Musalem is released, adding that other executives were also threatened with the abduction. Sunday's abduction came a week after the central bank's headquarters in Tripoli was laid siege to by armed men. Reports say they did so in an attempt to force the resignation of the bank's governor, Sadiq Al-Kabir. In the meantime, 95 Libyans detained in South Africa since July will be deported back to Libya on Sunday. The men were found at a suspected military training camp in northeastern South Africa and had their visas cancelled for being irregularly acquired. Now, they were initially charged with violating immigration rules, but the case was dropped due to insufficient evidence. The Libyan government has paid for their flight back home. South Africa's Home Affairs Minister, Leon Scriber, commended officials for their work in deporting the group and vowed to continue enforcing immigration laws. Now, the men had entered South Africa in April on visas issued for security guard training, but police suspected they were receiving military training. With South Africans and authorities recently upping the pressure on immigration and increasing rates on those in the country illegally, working without permits and committing crimes, some churches have taken it upon themselves to encourage the immigrant community to desist from committing crimes. Today, the church members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church marched in the streets of Yeoville, Berea and Hillbrow in Johannesburg suburbs largely dominated by immigrants from other African countries. Drug abuse, robberies and murder have become the order of the day in these areas, and foreigners are accused of being behind these crimes. The organizers of this march also provided counseling, health and other welfare services.
As we are doing an awareness campaign, we are trying to say to the community, let us join forces in helping our kids and not judge them, even if they are involved in the drugs. Let's find ways of helping them and rehabilitating them so that at least they are aware whatever they are going into is actually destructive, and there's also hope that they can rebuild their lives.
These activities are important because they keep children outside the streets, because everyone is getting interested in what we do, and then it keeps them away from trying substances such as drugs.
They have the information which they can spread even when they're at school, when the adventurers are at play, they can spread the message. When the pathfinders are wherever they are going to spread the message to their peers and advise them that drugs are going to destroy their lives.
The crime rate is increasing so much, and it is very unfortunate that as the youth we are also we have an impact on the crime that is happening, and we are part of the number and the statistics that are happening. So it is very unfortunate, and therefore we need such programs to bring us back together and to show us that there is more to life than just being somebody that hurts other people.
Let's now head to East Africa, where Sudan's health minister has declared a cholera epidemic in the war-torn country due to contaminated drinking water and heavy rainfall. The decision was made in conjunction with UN agencies and experts after the discovery of the cholera virus. The country has been embroiled in a war since April 2023, leading to a humanitarian crisis with over 25 million people facing acute hunger. Flooding has displaced thousands, causing an increase in sickness, including diarrhea. Cholera can cause severe dehydration and death within hours. The WHO has reported over 300,000 cases and 2,300 deaths in 26 countries. Sudan's war has hindered humanitarian efforts, with both sides accused of war crimes. Ceasefire talks began in Switzerland, but the Sudanese army refused to participate.
هي محلية يعني فيها إشكالية بتاع إنه 69% من المواطنين بيعتمدوا في مصدر الشرب على موية النهر، بالتالي هي موية ملوثة ومحتاجة لمعالجة، ودي يمكن داير لها متطوعين أو معززين لتعقيم المياه من النهر. والله الوفيات يمكن عدد الوفيات يمكن 7 وفيات، وعدد الحالات يمكن تقريبا 150 حالة.
أول كان عندنا موت البحر وبعدين قطعوها يهون الشموس.
Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has accused Ethiopia of refusing to recognize Somalia's sovereignty. In a recent address, Mohamud stated that Ethiopia's agreement with the breakaway region of Somaliland violates international law. The agreement grants Ethiopia access to the sea in exchange for recognition of Somaliland's independence. The international community, including the US, EU, China, African Union, and Arab League, has called on Ethiopia to respect Somalia's sovereignty. Indirect talks between Somalia and Ethiopia, facilitated by Turkey, have shown progress, with another round scheduled for September 17. Ethiopia, the second most populous country in Africa, has sought access to the Red Sea since losing it in 1993, and Somaliland, a relatively stable region, seeks international recognition despite its strategic location. In other news from around the world, Donald Trump has launched a fresh wave of personal attacks against Vice President Kamala Harris as new polling shows her gaining ground in key battleground states ahead of the Democratic National Convention. At a rally in Pennsylvania, Trump criticized Harris on issues like inflation. Spilling on her appearance, Trump said he's much better looking than her. Despite advice from Republicans and advisors to focus on the issues, Trump continues to use his populist and confrontational style, straying from his script to deliver insults. Now, this approach has raised concerns among his team, who worry it may alienate undecided and independent voters crucial to his chances in the November election.
You don't mind if I go off teleprompter for a second, do you? Joe Biden hates her. This was an overthrow of a president. This was an overthrow. They went out, I spent $100 million fighting Joe Biden. They told him he couldn't win. His debate performance wasn't the best ever. But they said mine was the best ever. But they said his debate performance wasn't. I look forward to debating her, by the way. She'll be easier. She'll be easier than him. He said, this woman is nuts. Look, people say, be nice. Have you heard her laugh? That is the laugh of a crazy person. That is the laugh of a crazy. It's the laugh of a lunatic. Have you heard it? They prohibited her.
Earlier, we were joined by global affairs analyst Ejike Okpa to further discuss this.
By the antics, the personal antics of, candidates in America. That's just the nature of campaign. You stick to the script, and then you'll also get off the script. But the point is that we know what the issues are. There's no issue that Trump is going to introduce now that we, the Americans, don't already know. So what he does is what Trump does. Those who are going to vote for him will vote for him regardless. And then those who will not vote for him will vote for him. So the point is that we're excited that at least we now know who we are facing. Kamala Harris, her record is out there, Trump's record, out there as well. So you compare and contrast. The election in November is about the soul of America. Do we want to, go with what Joe Biden has given us in, with support of Kamala Harris as number 2?
Thailand's new Prime Minister, Patriotism has vowed to boost the country's economy as she took office on Sunday. At 37, she's the kingdom's youngest ever Prime Minister and the third Shinawatra to hold the position. Patriotism's father, Thaksin, and aunt Yingluck were both ousted in military coups. She leads a coalition government and has called for unity to revitalize the economy, which has struggled since the COVID-19 pandemic. Thaksin attended the ceremony and praised Patriotism's humility and willingness to ask for help. Her elevation to Prime Minister came after the previous premier was sacked for ethics breaches. Thailand has been dominated by a power struggle between Thaksin's allies and the pro-military elite for over 20 years. Patriotism is a relative newcomer to politics, but has pledged to work with all parties to develop the country.
เป็นภารกิจที่ยิ่งใหญ่ไม่อาจทำสำเร็จได้ด้วยเพียงนายกรัฐมนตรีเพียงคนเดียวดิฉันมีความมุ่งหวังที่จะประสานพลังของคนทุกรุ่นประสานพลังของบุคคลที่มีความสามารถในประเทศไทยจากทุกภาคส่วน
In the world of sports, Brentford shrugged off the absence of Ivan Toney to get their Premier League season off to a flying start with a 2-1 win over Crystal Palace on Sunday. Brian Mbeumo scored Brentford's opener in the 29th minute shortly after Crystal Palace had their own strike controversially ruled out. Eberechi Eze found the net direct from a wide free kick, but referee Sam Barrett had already blown his whistle for a foul before the ball crossed the line. Moments later, Mbeumo put the Bees in front by squeezing the ball beyond Palace keeper Dean Henderson following a mazy run. The Eagles got a deserved equalizer in the 56th minute when Brentford defender Ethan Pinnock poked Daniel Munaz's header into his own net with Otsoni Edward lurking behind him. But Brentford scored a 78th minute winner through Yohan Wissa's tap-in after Henderson had kept out Nathan Collins. Different national teams that will compete in the pre-qualifiers of the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup have arrived in Kigali ahead of a games scheduled for August 19th to 25th. The tournament will see 8 countries competing in Group C and D with the goal of advancing to the World Cup's main qualifying tournament that will take place in March 2026. Rwanda was placed in Group D, where it will face Great Britain, Argentina, and Lebanon. Kigali will host the pre-qualifiers for both Group C and D. Group C comprises Hungary, Senegal, Brazil, and the Philippines. The top 2 teams from each group will advance to the semi-finals, with the winners of each group securing a place in the main qualifying tournament. 2-time Moto GP champion Francesco Bagnaia wins the Austrian Grand Prix sprint to go level on points with Prima Pramac Racing's Jorge Martin at the top of the World's Championship. A 6-time Moto GP champion Marc Marquez crashed. The Italian Ducati rider's victory at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg moved him up to 250 points alongside Martin ahead of Sunday's race. Martin received a long lap penalty for failing to lose 1 second after cutting the chicane at turn 2 and finished second. He had looked on course to finish third until Marquez crashed out with 4 laps remaining. There was no stopping Bagnaia's once Martin's penalty had been served, and he opened up a sizable gap over the Spaniard, crossing the finish line well ahead of the chasing pack. Alex Espargaro made up a place to finish third and take his second sprint podium. Espargaro, 35, announced in May that he will retire at the end of the 2024 season. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Nigerian government is set to subsidize electricity for universities, hospitals. We also told you that SERAP has demanded transparency from National Assembly leaders. Finally, you heard that Libya has suspended all operations after kidnapping of staff. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do you follow us on social media? We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Start on channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.